A new documentary we'll talk about. He's Kareem Abdul Jabbar, and he joins us here in studio. It is a pleasure, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
We are very good, and we've been. I saw about a 3-minute clip of the documentary, and I want to see more. On the Shoulders of Giants, the story of the greatest basketball team you've never heard of. You're the executive producer. You have a lot of roles in this. How did the project come about?
Well, it's something I wanted to do for a long time. Basically, because Harlem is home. You know, it's where I was born and raised, and the story of the rings really has fallen through the cracks of history. So it was a great opportunity to let the whole world know what it was all about and give them something interesting to chew on.
Getting ready for you to come, I got educated because I always thought the Harlem Globetrotters, A, were from Harlem, they're from Chicago, and B, I thought they were the first professional basketball team. The story of the Harlem Wrens, I'm enthralled by this. Did you know this story when you were growing up, when you were 8, 10, 12 years old? Had you already heard of the Wrens and you knew who the Harlem, it was the Harlem Renaissance, short for Harlem Wrens. Did you know who they were?
I knew who they were, but I wasn't up to it in terms of in-depth knowledge of what they were all about.
Like as a 12-year-old, you couldn't be an executive producer for a documentary, for instance.
No, and just by that time, you know, when I was 12 years old, when was that, 1959? Nobody was aware of the Wrens. They kind of just become part of, you know, it's like Charlie Chaplin, you know, in movies.
Used to be popular, but now they're gone.
Yeah, and nobody knew about them. But remnants of them were all throughout. I came in contact with people who knew them. For example, when I was in high school, Dolly King was a referee for New York City high school schoolboy games. He played for the Wrens in the 1940s. And I had no idea that he had played for the Wrens at that time. I didn't find out about his connection to the team until that point. And there were other, you know, instances where some of the guys on the Wrens saw me in grade school and high school and knew that I had a potential to do well in the game, and they used to come and watch me play at times, and I had no idea who was sitting in the stands.
Again, the documentary is on the Shoulder of Giants, the story of the greatest basketball team you've never heard of, Kareem Abdul Jabbar with Chuck and Chernoff on 680 The Fan. I saw a couple of current players. Carmelo talked about it, some other guys. Do you think they really understand how influential, how important the team, the Wrens, were to what's going on today in the NBA?
Most people don't. I mean, it happened so long ago, and a lot of the guys playing in the NBA today don't realize that the NBA was segregated when it started. Its first 3 years in existence, it was segregated, and they finally, in 1950, decided to integrate. I think Major League Baseball really set the tone there. Observing what happened with Jackie Robinson and how important it was, I think they decided to step up to the plate.
You bring up an interesting point there, because another thing I was wrong about is if you would have asked me a week ago who's the first black player in the NBA, I would have said Sweetwater Clifton. And he missed it by a day.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Jackie Robinson.
Right.
How is it that we have no reliable knowledge? Most people wouldn't even have a guess. Those people who have a guess think it's Sweetwater Clifton. But it was actually Earl Lloyd who beat him by 1 day.
Right. It's kind of like a three-way race, because the first guy that got drafted was Charles Cooper. I think he went to Duquesne. He's the first black player to be drafted, and then Earl Lloyd was the first guy to play a game, and Sweetwater, he went over because the Globetrotters sold his contract to the Knicks. So you got those 3 guys. They kind of share the honor of being the person to integrate the NBA.
What stuck out to me, too, where the Wrens played their home games, because you had to find a venue you could do it. Talk about the atmosphere that you learned around the team, and how good was the team? Is that a team that, if they were allowed to play in what we know as the NBA in years to follow, how good could they have been?
I think they would have been an excellent team. I think they would have been right at the top. Can't say they would have been champions, but they would have been right at the top because they played a very smart game with ball movement. The rules were so different then, you know, jump ball after every made basket, and the ball had those like football laces
seams
on it.
Yeah.
So if you bounce it too much, it's going to take a weird bounce and go into the stands. So their passing game, you know, which minimized dribbling, was really a smart way to play the game, and the constant movement.
And then they played in a casino, though, right? Not a gambling casino, but that was the hall they played in as their home venue.
It was a dance. It was a dance hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad grew up in Brooklyn, and he used to go to Manhattan a lot to try to meet some young ladies, and he used to go to the Renaissance Dance Hall. He said he always used to try to time it so that he'd get there when the basketball game was over, because he wasn't interested in that.
Smart man. He had his priorities in order. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk more about it again. On the Shoulders of Giants is the documentary, the story of the greatest basketball team you've never heard of. It's available on video on demand right now. Check your local cable operator for additional information. We'll tell you how else you can get your hands on it. We'll talk about some of the great career as well. One of the legends in sports, Kareem Abdul Jabbar, is our guest. We'll continue our conversation next with Chuck and Chernoff on 680 The Fan, now on FM at 93.7, and always online at 680thefan.com.